Okay, I'm excited, but I'm also a little nervous about these next few days with you. I'm finally gonna get all of this off my chest. I can't keep these secrets any longer. Over the next 5 days, I'm going to reveal 5 dirty little secrets about superachievers. You'll learn what really motivates them. And no, it's not what you read about in magazines, see on documentaries, or what they say in interview series. It's not what you read in their press releases or on their websites or Wikipedia pages either. What motivates them is not their selfless altruism to help people make a difference or dent the universe, even though that's what they'll say or what is said about them. I'm going to tell you what's really behind that mask of their projected confidence and their promoted superhero persona. Oh, and in this series, I'll also tell you the truth about their seemingly unflappable discipline, steadfast character, and projected and bigger-than-life personalities. You can say, in this series, I'm going to clear the smoke before the mirrors. This probably will not make me popular in their eyes, but I feel you really deserve to know, once and for all. So let's start with their unstoppable motivation, their ferocious desire to pursue audacious visions, tackling global challenges, being a game changer, and revolutionizing their industry. Where does that crazy ambition and motivation come from? Well, often from pain and dysfunction. It's true. Many of the greatest achievers that you admire were originally motivated by a dysfunction, a traumatic setback, followed by a feeling of inadequacy and insignificance. It was Steve Jobs, abandoned by his birth parents, who coined the mantra of being here to dent the universe. He was compelled by this so that he could regain a feeling of significance and importance about himself after feeling unworthy and insignificant by his biological parents. It was Richard Branson, who struggled with dyslexia and ADHD and was told by his high school headmaster that he'd end up in prison or a millionaire, that drove Branson to billions to prove him wrong. Thomas Edison was motivated by the words of his teacher when she said he'd never amount to anything. Even his heiress, Michael Jordan, cut by his high school coach from the basketball team, was driven by the motivation to prove that coach wrong his whole career. Every victory, all the championships were still not enough. This compulsion continued right up to Michael's Hall of Fame acceptance speech, where he personally flew that high school basketball coach out for the speech, placed him in the front row, and then paused at the crescendo of his speech, and he waggled his finger at him and said, quote, "See, you made a mistake, dude." Wow, right? And candidly, I have to say, that was my original source motivation as well. You probably know by now that my parents divorced when I was 18 months old. And when they divorced, I went with my dad. Now, back in the early 1970s, that never happened. Why did it? Because my mother didn't want me. Not to her fault, she was just one of those women who never wanted to be a mother. In fact, when she originally found out that from the doctor that she was pregnant with me, unplanned of course, her response was anger and then 9 months of disappointment. When I was born, she didn't have much interest in me still. So when they decided to divorce, thankfully for me, she readily and probably quite enthusiastically just handed me off to my father and walked right out the door. My dad, being only 23 years old when I was born, had no idea what to do with me either. All he knew was football, and the only way that you got love or attention from him was to achieve. No whining, no crying, no excuses. Achievement was his love language. If you achieved, the sun shined bright on you. If you failed, home was a very cold, dark, and painful place to be. So my original motivation was to please my dad, to achieve, to make him proud, whatever it took. This was a very motivating force, let me tell you. That is why I got good grades, even though I probably was not naturally smart. I did all the extra credit. I went to the library after school. I stayed after class. I got workbooks and quizzes and mock tests that I studied over the summer. That motive drove me to success in school. That is why I probably did fairly well in sports too. I practiced 2 to 3 times more than anybody else. On my own, by myself. I made up in practice, hard work, and heart. Heart also meaning being scared shitless of failing in front of my father, what I lacked in unique ability. And I apply that same strategy and effort to my sales career and to all my entrepreneur endeavors. So while it might seem that my upbringing was quite dysfunctional, and it was, you have no idea, it is what fueled my better than normal success. There is no way I would have had the motivation to work as hard as I did, as long as I did, as relentlessly as I did, if I had not been trying to overcome these feelings of abandonment and the yearning so desperate for my dad's approval and acceptance. Now, I eventually put all of that into proper perspective, graduating from that initial motivation to one of my own design and direction. I tell that whole story in the Entrepreneur Rollercoaster book, but it was, in the beginning, wonderfully motivating to get me to that point. So what's the lesson for you here? One, I think it is to realize that you're not the only dysfunctional person. I'm telling you, most of the people that you admire the most were in fact motivated and driven by their dysfunction. So you're not alone, crazy or weird or even disabled because of it. In fact, it is because of your dysfunction or adversity of any kind that gives you an advantage. Just like it takes pressure and stress to eventually break down and build a muscle, so it is true of the human spirit. Your adversities have not created wounds that debilitate you. No, they have created muscle that give you the strength to build, carry, and accomplish feats you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Embrace your adversities and turn them into your advantages. Tomorrow, I will reveal one of the greatest syndromes even the most celebrated heroes among us suffer from. You will be shocked to learn who feels like you do when you thought you were the only one. It will embolden you in ways that you today cannot even imagine. I'll see you right back here in the morning for that. In the meantime, tell us in the comments below, what is one dysfunction from your past that you've already or will turn into your advantage?